Welcome, guys, to Capital City Podcast. We're going to explore the heartbeat of Sacramento as we dive into the dynamic world of business entrepreneurs, showcasing the city's real estate visionaries, trailblazing business owners, and vibrant artists and athletes. Every episode paints a vivid portrait of the city's innovation, ambition, and creative spirit. Let's uncover the stories that shape Sacramento's identity and inspire the next wave of pioneers. Welcome, guys, to the second episode of Capital City Podcast. Today, I have a very special guest with us today. It's Josh Perry. He is the co-founder of a company called Trust God Bro. I'm sure you guys have seen it. It's on social media everywhere. It's a Christian media company with over 10 million followers. That's crazy. Across all social media platforms. And they recently launched their own apparel line in 2022, which I'm shamelessly wearing right now. So the vision of their company is to inspire the world to trust in God. So without further ado, man, thanks for jumping onto the podcast. This is the second episode. So
yeah, this is great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
This is awesome. I love being able to just kind of share what we're doing and maybe even just kind of share some experiences. Hopefully this can help somebody. So
absolutely. Yeah, man. This is pretty crazy. Relatively young guy. You're 27, 26?
28 now.
28. Okay.
Yeah.
Not relatively younger. I mean, you're still in your 20s. But there's a lot of things that people, strive to do, but you've already done it right now, right? With your own apparel company, over 10 million followers on Instagram and all the other social media platforms. How did you do it and what made you want to do it?
Yeah, I think the story really originates from a guy named Brandon McFarland. And let's go way back in 2014, right? Brandon McFarland actually started Trust God Bro, the Instagram account, out of an expression of his faith. And he wanted to post encouraging quotes. He recently just became, a Christian after his dad was inviting him to church for the longest time. He was up in the party scene. He was just kind of doing his own thing and just felt like he had a bigger purpose on his life. And so eventually he ended up going to church after his dad had, begged him to come. And then after that, really stepping into a new season where he wanted to express his faith, he started the page. And growing up from SoCal, he decided to, name this page Trust God Bro, right? Okay. And so he started this Instagram page, and ever since then, it just took off. This is early Instagram phase, right? So everything was going viral. I mean, it was early posting. And so he just kept on being consistent, posting 2 to 3 times a day. Not even using third-party like scheduling apps or anything like that. All manually posting just simple faith-inspired quotes. And then eventually, his father passed away, and because of that, he really has this huge motivation to make his dad proud and to do something on a worldwide scale. And so ever since then, he's been consistent. That eventually led into us meeting together in 2021 for this next iteration of the Trust God Bro company.
That's awesome. So he essentially was able to create the brand as it is, but you're able to kind of take hold of the social media part, the marketing, and then the creative aspect. A lot of the designs are awesome, man. How would you describe that process and, what are the next steps moving forward?
Well, I think the page had already been so iconic, and when I had met Brandon, he was already running the page for about, 8 years or so.
Gotcha.
And so there's this iconic, which we're wearing right now, this simple, logo design that we were wearing.
Yeah.
And it was his profile picture on his Instagram account for the longest time. And it never changed. It just remained the same. And when we had met, we had met at a church that we were both attending. And I eventually got to know him, got to kind of learn his story. And then we had coffee one day, and I was like, hey, so what do you want to do with this? What do you want to do with Trust God Bro? What do you want to do with this? And there was 3 things that we now reference as the 3 main pillars of our company, which is ministry, merch, and music, right? And those 3 specific verticals are what we want to build out as part of the company. And we were sort of thinking about okay, well, if merch is one of them, would people even wear this? Would people even, if we just took this profile picture that was on here for the longest time. We put that on a t-shirt, what it means something to somebody. And especially as he was growing this Instagram account, when we had met, he was probably about at 3 million followers on his Instagram account.
Right.
Now it's about almost just shy of 5.8 million followers, right? So this thing is growing pretty fast every single year. But when we had talked about, okay, let's come up with some designs, and that's where I had pitched him a couple of designs, and we decided to launch in 2022, which was like amazing. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty new company then.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of different lines, different times of the year that you're launching different products. Right. Yeah. So talking about, your company, it's a pretty new company. Your first drop, how did that feel?
Yeah.
Was there a little bit of anxiety? What types of emotions were going through your head, and what got you across?
Yeah, well, I think we had to try to, zoom out and just recognizing the state of the company. Many people try to build a community around the company that they start, but we're almost like working in the opposite way. We're almost reverse engineering everything, where, Brandon had spent, close to 8 years building a community around all of these social media platforms. And so launching a product was something where we had to ensure that it was something that people liked.
Yeah.
And so I think we did a couple polls or anything like that, but we wanted to keep it sort of standard, simple, and not go too crazy on what we were offering. Just a plain old t-shirt. We were doing like drop shipping at the time, so it wasn't nothing necessarily like super custom or anything like that.
Right.
Pretty standard garments, but it worked, and the demand was there, and people loved it. And what we started to find out was people started to treat this logo here like a Nike symbol, right? Something super iconic. I mean, this community is culminated with so many different types of people that are playing professionally in the NBA, NFL, celebrities, people on reality TV shows follow Trust God Bro. And so there wasn't necessarily like, okay, we need to do a demographic study on what this specific type of people wear. No, it was we had to make something available that everyone could wear, because we already had the community built. And so by launching in 2022 in September, that was an extraordinary experience. And so it basically took off from there. And then in this year, January of 2023, we decided to do all the inventory, all the manufacturing ourselves, and provide a little bit more of a custom branded experience for people. So something a little bit more of a quality garments that we're offering and stuff like that. So we're always evolving. We're always iterating on the next phases of what we're doing for the apparel side.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I can totally feel the quality of these garments. This is a super light jacket, and I feel like I'm going to be able to work out in this for like 2 or 3 hours without like sweating, because it's really breathable. So I love it, man. Thanks for hooking it up.
Thanks. Yeah.
So buy this for your workouts, guys.
Come on. Let's go.
So you were talking about the many celebrities, the athletes, the different people that you technically kind of sponsor, right?
Yeah.
How was that interaction initially to get their interest, or do they just do it organically? They reach out to you?
Well, I think, over the past few years, all these different social media accounts have changed the way that they share content. There's so many different tools at our disposal. And even now, things are popping off, most recently like Threads, an Instagram-based platform. All of these different social media accounts, they find their different ways of reaching people that we sometimes don't really intentionally try to do ourselves. Things populate on people's news feeds and stuff like that. And so, or on their feeds, our quotes just pop up. And eventually, I think due to its growing nature, NFL athletes, NBA athletes, I mean, so many different people in different industries just start following the page because we have a big following. And so when they see that and we're consistent, it means something to them. And it's intentional too. So eventually that had led us, when we had launched apparel, was asking ourselves, like, what would it look like to start to interact with these people and start to build a brand of apparel by tapping into these relationships. And so starting to, develop a CRM for all of these different followers, right? So we literally have a huge list of all these professional leads, or these leads that are professional athletes, celebrities, and we literally go one by one on which ones that we want to build a relationship with.
Right.
And then just this past year, we've been able to send some apparel out to Lamar Jackson, the quarterback of the Ravens.
Yeah, that's
some
amazing.
NBA athletes as well. And so there's a few other NFL athletes. Christian McCaffrey on the 49ers follows us. So there's a lot of different people in different spheres that are following the page as well.
That's awesome. And it just shows you too, a lot of these players, they love God. They want to show their support to, the faith. And a lot of the ways, it's through wearing gear. You can't really go on. A lot of them aren't really wanting to go on TV and multi network channels where, hey, I love Jesus. Some of them do. I saw one with CJ Stroud saying that he does everything through God. And he loves Jesus and he does everything to glorify Him. Yeah, and it's just crazy how you're able to not only capitalize on that, but also create awareness. Right. Through those bigger figures in our society.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even just recognizing as a faith-based business, learning how to kind of talk about what we're doing outside of the Christian bubble, and I know sometimes just, being a faith-based entrepreneur, we can say things that tend to be a little bit more, Christianese is what we call it, a little bit more insider language. And so, but if we were to zoom out and sort of articulate what we're doing as a company is creating a set of values that, people resonate with, right? And, we recognize that what we believe in is what people are, wanting to be very vocal about. People have a story and they're trying to trust in something that's bigger than themselves. Everyone's going through challenges. Everyone's going through problems. Everyone's situations are, so different from each other. Brandon always says, everyone's going through the same thing, just in different ways, right? And all of us, through all of our different circumstances, the common thread is that we're trying to trust in something that's a higher power, right? Which we, consider to be God, right? And so with that being the core message of our company is really tapping into who else also believes in that, and coming alongside people to really spread that message, which is positive. We want to be, again, our whole message as a company is we just want to help people, right? We just want to help them by giving them a token of inspiration when they look at this mark, right? And we want to encourage people. And at the end of the day, we're not here to make deep religious theological debates, right? We're just a simple mark of inspiration that we want to give people when they see our stuff at the gym or at a sporting event or at different events, but whatever they're a part of, we want to just inspire people. So
absolutely. I think you have, man. This is a really great company. You have a lot of great individuals who are now working with a brand. So super stoked for you, man. This is one of those things where it's I've known you since college. So this is probably 7 years almost that we've known each other, since 21 or 22 years old. So, seeing that you have that really creative background in art, doing drawings for people, I've seen so much stuff, through your relationship with God, and then having that kind of combine now has been really cool to see. Your creative, artistic side that is honestly God-given with the want to spread the love of God. And on a huge scale, 10 million people.
Exactly. And I think I love stories because no one can take away your personal experience, the things that you've experienced and things that I've been able to be a part of and what I've gone through. This, when we just met in 2014, right around that year, I was really trying to pursue the entertainment industry. I wanted to be a concept artist, work with directors, work with writers, developing the visual development of these films. I was a big Marvel nerd. I loved movies. And so I wanted to work in the movie industry and be a costume designer, help storyboard. And I had gone to an amazing school, one of the most prestigious design schools in the world. It's called Art Center College of Design. And for me, I wasn't really a smart kid. I was probably C at best, but I was extremely passionate about art. And I had worked my way up to get a full ride scholarship at that university. And after just 1 year, also, I grew up with, my faith being a big part of my life. My mom would drag me to church, and eventually, as I got older, I actually took my faith as my own and started really study the Bible for myself and wanted to practice my faith, and really wanted to live that out as a conscious decision. And so that was happening alongside my career progression. Right. But after just 1 year of being at this private design school, I had an impression, and this might sound crazy again, but I had an impression that God was saying that he had a different calling in my life. And that was a really difficult time for me because I had to really evaluate, the 20 years I had worked up to get to this point, to be at the industry that I needed to be at the level of skill I needed to be, and then yet feel like this higher being was telling me I had a different purpose for my life. That was really difficult to trust, right? That was really difficult to trust because not everyone will understand that. And I get that, right? But then that eventually led to me dropping out of my full ride scholarship in LA. I was, 22 years old, thought I was going to be one of the biggest art gurus in LA. And, I ended up dropping out. And I think 2017 was sort of redefining who I was, apart from my skill set. And that eventually led to my older brother, Ronnie, inviting me to Sacramento to be part of a church plant where I got to learn so many different skill sets. I got to learn leadership for the first time, marketing, photography, design, started to volunteer on the creative team at that ministry, and started to lead at a high level, eventually brought on a staff level as creative director. And then just started working in that ministry. And then that's how I ran into Brandon for Trust God, Bro. And so that's how this all kind of connects is I also have a story to tell. And it heavily involves with this message of trusting in God. And so as we're building as entrepreneurs, it's also building with conviction. It's building, we're not just slapping, Bible verses and leveraging that and making a profit off of that. No, it's no, I've lived through my own story. So whenever I'm actually preaching this stuff, I'm preaching from a place of conviction. And so I think that's where my best leadership comes out. I think that's where I'm able to kind of cast vision and to set things in motion, because not only do I have my story to contribute, but Brandon does as well. Right. And so he has his own story of trusting God. I think about the Brandon who had 1,000 followers. Right. I think about the Brandon who had only, let's just say, I know it's a lot, but only 10,000 followers. What if he just quit? Right? What if he had just stopped and, this is not really working out for me. I don't really see the returns. Now, 10 years later, 5.8 million followers, and over 10 million across all these different social media platforms. It's pretty amazing how he has his own story of trusting in God as well. So I just kind of see that being threaded throughout the years. And so that's just kind of gives a little bit more context to, what I'm doing and a little bit of a snapshot of who I am too.
No, I gotta love it, man.
Yeah.
I feel like in a similar way, just having that motivation to set off and do one thing, for me, it was the Air Force. I wanted to be a 20-year guy, got into missiles, really focused on being the best missile leaders possible. Yeah. And then after, a couple of years in, I'm like, man, this is not for me. Yeah. I had to be underground for, 72 hours sometimes, hitting knobs and switches and really stressed out of my brain, stressed out. Yeah. But once I found when I was raised as a kid, going to my mom's flips, putting together houses, going into real estate events, I really hated it. And then when I came back here in Sacramento, I was like, there's something that I can really do here. Yeah. I can envision myself either working for somebody like Northrop Grumman or Boeing or some of these larger aerospace companies. Am I really going to enjoy that? It's going to be going back in the military.
The career pivots are hard, man.
It's a 9 to 9, bro.
You invest so much time into this one thing, and then when you start to consider a different option, it's not necessarily you're afraid to go into this new thing, but it's sacrificing what you've done already.
Exactly.
I get that, yeah.
Yeah, and then for Air Force guys and military in general, if you don't hit your 20, you don't get a pension. Wow. That pension is for that 20-year mark. Hey, I'm free. I can be a substitute teacher for the rest of my life. Like, am I either going to really push that and be unhappy for the next 12 years?
Yeah.
Or am I going to get out now, build a business, create a life
Right.
that I love, and not really have that financial stability
Right.
that a lot of people do have in the military?
Yeah.
So that's kind of a big thing too. I noticed with a lot of, Air Force vets, veterans in general, is like, hey, I
Right.
want to get out, but I have like 2 kids, I have a
Yeah.
wife. This is a really good income.
Yeah.
And they feel like, hey, like if I was in your position, you should go for
Right.
it, man. No kids, you don't really have too
yeah.
much on your plate.
Right.
So I just love that we both were able to kind of
Yeah,
jump
yeah.
on and like latch on to
Right.
an idea.
Yeah.
Now, you being in this huge, global business, it's going to be a pretty big global business. I can see it, man. And then me with, real estate, getting into boutique
Right,
hotels
right.
and the resort side.
Yeah. What's that like? Because I want to kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit about vision, right? And that little spark of vision, that little small idea, being able to materialize that into a business model, and having that generate revenue and being able to provide opportunities for people. Like, I think it amazes me that, it's a difference between having an idea and then actually executing on that idea,
Right.
and making influence. And so like for
Right.
you, like, how do you, as you reflect on that, you reflect on the time, the version of Josh Pobletti thinking about the opportunities. I mean, like what sparked that inspiration and like what sparked that idea of like, hey, like I want to do something else, or I want to like tap into this potential. Like what helped you get from that place of this is an idea versus like I'm investing my time. I'm gonna start executing on this.
Yeah, man, that's a great question. I'm a really visual person, so what I did was I do these long drives. And
Yeah.
then one drive I was really visualizing, hey, what do I want my next couple of years to look like? My, next 5, 10, 20
Yeah.
years look like. And I was seeing real estate. I was seeing me like being in charge of people putting units together, doing rehab. I was seeing myself being able to be like a boss in
Yeah,
a way,
yeah.
like someone that can take care of a company. And then there was also a different person who came in to picture, and it was one of my business partners.
Yeah.
He's an Air Force guy, a Space Force officer, actually. Anthony, shout out to bro Anthony.
Go.
He actually came up to me one day and was like, hey man, this is what I'm doing with Airbnbs. I'm going to, really try to grow this company that I have. He had like, I think 2 units at the time. I was like, hey man, okay, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Like low key, I know we're talking about trust God, bro, and everything,
yeah.
but this was like
No,
on a
100%.
drunken
Yeah.
Air Force night after I got off
Yeah.
alert. Like we had like a really long conversation,
Yeah.
had a couple beers,
Yeah.
and then we're like, man, like we can actually make a pretty cool company in Northern California when
Yeah.
you move up there. Cassie at the time got orders to go to Beale Air Force Base, which is up here in California.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening was I got our first 2 units, and we were able to lock down 2 units in West Sacramento.
Wow.
Every single month, we were able to onboard 2 to 4
That's
units.
great.
So now we're sitting at 25 units.
Wow.
Multiple opportunities across the
Yeah.
board, like acquisitions, buying
Yeah.
hotels, buying. I have a flip deal that I'm working on right now in northern Sacramento.
Yeah.
So it just kind of came from
Wow, that's awesome.
an idea,
Right.
the right person to
Right.
kind of reflect that idea off of,
Yeah.
and then let's take that first
Yeah.
step together, and then just kind of grew from there.
Yeah.
And also a lot of my other businesses are currently
Right.
like that, where we had a great idea, brought in the right people to kind of solidify that,
Right.
and now that business is taking
Yeah,
off.
I see that so much being of value to entrepreneurs as they, speed to market, right? The speed to be able to test out your theories, right? To see opportunity. And I think, what holds people back, or a lot of entrepreneurs back, is that they live in this theory phase. They live in the phase of just ideas and dreaming. But I see the ones that, even though they might not know the most amount of their industry, but at least take that first
Take
step.
action.
They
Yeah.
start taking action,
Yep.
and they start learning. There's a difference between just learning from even just a book or a podcast versus like actually learning from an experience. Letting the experience teach you something, and the quicker you are able And the more I think the more experienced you are as an entrepreneur, the quicker you are to taking an idea and executing on that is huge. And I'm sure, like, man, you look back and just like, man, like, this is, you're building something. You are building something very much like, Trust God Bro. So
Yeah. Yeah, in a way, I think Homefront in a lot of ways is very similar. We do have, Homefront is it represents security.
yeah,
So when our, partners or investors decide to go with us, or management clients in a lot of cases, we take care of that home because we are 75% owned and operated by veterans, which is a really crazy thing. So when we're able to take care of their homes, we're able to, get the best types of services.
Right.
Like cleaning companies, we're able to get the best profit,
Yeah.
Push different. We have like 10 listing sites that we use across our 25 units. So just having like that in itself, like I know branding's huge with you. Mm-hmm. So, Homefront for us, we're kind of in that, infant stage of kind of going out and really marketing that brand.
Right.
But it's going to be pretty fun.
That's awesome.
I'm excited about it.
Let's go. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So I really love the energy and the passion that you've like really brought to, the people around you. I see that, through your leadership style. We've been friends for a while, but man, you really come a long ways in your leadership style. I kind of wanted to touch up on that. As a person who is now the CEO of a company, co-founder, now you have multiple layers of people underneath you. How are you able to really structure that well?
Yeah.
And how are you able to make sure that certain things are going the right way?
Yeah, I think, obviously, that's a loaded question, just to kind of unpack, like, what leadership style is required of me in this current season. And I think it's just starting off by talking about leadership. As Brandon he has founded this company, as he is CEO, and he has vision, right? My experience is in project management. My experience is being able to set campaigns, to create projects, to create vision and cast a mood board, and I bring my skill sets in photography, design, and filmmaking, and all of this into, something that we can execute on, and I think it's when I think about myself and the dynamic, how I'm operating within the nature of our company, this style of being a servant leader, right? Of being so hungry and asking Brandon, and constantly asking him, hey, what are your thoughts? And getting feedback from him on a periodic basis, whether that's month to month, quarter to quarter. It's constantly talking to him. Hey, what do you want to see? Where's your mind at? And for me to track where his mind's at and where he's imagining, where he's dreaming, right. I'm able to, set the projects in place and to serve in that way. And so my leadership style is not necessarily coming from a place of, authority or, I have the biggest title or, I have the biggest responsibility. No, it's like, hey, I'm going to come alongside you and to help you execute. And I found that when I operate in that leadership style, I'm able to get into rooms, I'm able to get into tables that are very hard for other people to get into. Why? Because I'm constantly thinking about how am I adding value, right? How am I giving back, right? How am I being, how am I not just, trying to appear valuable, but actually, doing something that helps somebody. And so whenever I find that little thing that I get to do, whether it's for the company or people that we're collaborating with, I'm oftentimes, invited back into that room because I'm going to make that room better, and so, that's sort of like a little bit of what I would say about that leadership aspect. But I know that you had other parts of that question as well. Yeah,
man. No, I love that. It's just being able to add value. And you can tell, like, with entrepreneurs, how much can you work for my company?
Yeah.
But being that person who is able to add value to your employees' lives, your partners' lives, you're going to have a give and take. And a lot of the times you want to be a joy to work with. And I think, if somebody were to approach me and, ask me like, hey, what is the most important thing to be, what quality should a CEO have or a, C-level executive, I would say just being a joy to work with.
Yeah.
If no one wants to work with you, you're not going to have a team.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to have
So
somebody who's willing to really go in the trenches.
Exactly. And I would say, like, I've learned to value chemistry over loyalty.
Right.
Because oftentimes when we're building something, we expect people to be loyal on what we're asking them to do. Right. But if we're not really wanting to hang out with them, if we don't want to get to know them, you know, if we don't know whether they're trying to go their own goals, what they want to do, their ambitions and all that stuff. But yet here I am trying to demand loyalty from them. They're not going to give me their best. And so that's why I value chemistry. That's why I value being able to work with people. Even if somebody's more talented, I don't have the chemistry, I'll probably go with the other candidate because I know that that other candidate is probably more teachable. They're probably a little bit more open to what I have to say as a leader. And so I've learned, as long as we're building a cohesive team, a unit that not only just, works hard, but plays hard, man, that's the whole entire fun of the journey. We don't have to wait until we hit our goals to have fun. It's like, no, like we're having fun along the way. And so chemistry over loyalty is something that I'm valuing a ton in this season.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, chemistry over loyalty. So your current team, how many members do you have right now on staff?
So it's just 3 of us.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So again, it's
very choosy.
I often act as the executive assistant, and Brandon is, the CEO, and his wife is a huge administrative beast. I mean, she is so good at systems and making sure, and she's so punctual, and she is what makes she's the oil in the engine, right? The person that not only just handles, customers and all that stuff, but she really helps us calendar things in while, Brandon and I can focus on, building other aspects of the business that can generate revenue as well. And so all 3 of us bring a very dynamic skill set to the table. Right. All 3 of us have a very large capacity too. And so we don't necessarily see us needing to bring anyone on soon.
Yeah,
but
keep the overhead low.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But that's where, again, when we recognize who's at this table right now, although it's a small team, we have a lot to contribute. Yeah. And we got big vision. We all have a big motivation. And so I think that's where, we're able to kind of push past the 100% to the 150% on, every single thing that we're doing. So it's just the 3 of us right now. With some volunteers, so we have some volunteer help as well. So
okay, if you want to volunteer, hit Perry up.
That'd be great.
Trust God, bro. Volunteers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's awesome, man. So, last couple questions that I have for you. So, if you were to be able to go back in time, tell your younger self, hey, this is what you should have done, or people who are currently, a couple steps behind you want to create a business, what would you tell them at this point?
So I think knowing my background as being a creative, I've always felt like I never belonged to like one group of people. Like it's just been something like, I look, obviously, like even just my appearance, I look mixed, like I'm multi-ethnic. Even when it comes to my skill set, like I just have I'm just diverse, and so I've always felt like I never fit into one thing. And so there's a lot of intersection of who I am. And so when I think about what would I say to my younger self, I think I would kind of break that up into parts, right? So for example, when it comes to like the creative, I think if you are a creative out there, I'd really start to study leadership. The nature of being a creative in your industry is you're focusing on production. You're focusing on producing the best, work that you can. But when it comes to the career progression, there's going to have to be that point in time where you have to decide whether you're going to stay in production or you're going to start leading and managing people. Right. And if you don't learn how to manage, learn how to work with people, it's going to be very difficult for you to climb that ladder of success. Being a senior designer or senior editor and then eventually moving on to, executive level role, it all involves leadership. And those are the intangibles. It's not necessarily the tangible work that you're producing. It's the intangible things that you're producing in people. Right. And so I would say for the creatives, focusing on leadership is going to be crucial for your development. And then when I think about like myself, honestly, this might come off a little like, I don't want it to come off too obnoxious or conceited, but I'm very proud at how I've been able to navigate where I'm at right now because it wasn't all just me.
Yeah.
And that's the whole full circle moment of my life is when I look back in my 20s, I don't have any regrets because I took every single risk that I needed to take in order to accomplish what I want to accomplish. And I think back to the version of myself that, felt like he had something more in the tank than just art and decided to quit college, right? Like that's, I'm not promoting, people to quit college or anything like that, but I don't regret that experience because it made me better.
Right.
When it came to, serving at a local church that many could see and overlook as, oh, okay, it's just a local church. It's not a big time agency. It's not a big time company or anything like that.
Right.
I try to take significance in what I was a part of every single season and give 100%. And when I look back, man, sure, there are the little things that I would say okay, maybe you could save more, or maybe you can, learn this. But I think because I had been surrounded by great leaders, mentors, people who spoken to me every single season, people that corrected me before I would even make the mistake myself, vicariously living through other people's mistakes, regrets, and failures, and then subsequently avoiding those same mistakes because I submitted under great leadership, under great teaching. I'm able to look back and be like, man, wow, they really helped me out. And so it's not all on me. I give so much credit to, the pastors and the leaders who took their time to invest into me, because I was able to avoid a lot of problems there.
A lot of problems. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about, man. It's kind of like you don't want to tell your younger self about changing because you're not going to be the person who you are currently,
Yeah.
But for the people who are wanting to learn how to do what you're doing now, like what you said, leadership, relying on those other influences that help lead them is huge. Do you have any current mentees right now you're working with?
Yeah. Big, I would say big, credit to my older brother, Ronnie, right? And, really great mentor, Gordon. He's the CEO of a marketing firm here in Sacramento. They won national awards for their marketing agency. For my pastors at E2 Church, Pastor Jared, Pastor Q, so many different people. And again, I think I would add on to that of what I would encourage that younger self is and anyone out there who is developing their career in entrepreneurship, no matter how old you are, whether you're 20 or 30, find a mentor, find people, and they might not label themselves as a mentor in your life, but find the people who are willing to invest into you, that see potential in you, that see the talent and the capacity that you have. When you surround yourself with these people who are killing it, who are way better than where you are, over time you get to see that payoff. And so again, when I think about my current season, I can't help but to be grateful for the people that was around me. And so that's, on top of learning leadership, I would just say, finding the right people to surround yourself with that can teach you is huge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's one of those things where I found myself being able to jump into even higher circles because of the people that I started to get to know and start getting mentored from. So, yeah, really, really grateful for those people in my life and, these past couple months especially, just growing from single family units to, boutique hotels to, resort style accommodation. So, yeah, man. So that's super awesome. Thank you again for sharing with us. I have one more question for you. This is kind of a general question, but what does Sacramento mean to you?
Sacramento, I've always felt like, and maybe you can resonate with this too, I've always felt like Sacramento had so much potential for entrepreneurs, creatives, people who want to be a part of the city and just want to contribute and give back. A lot of things are already built out in LA, when it comes to the entertainment industry. And I think Sacramento is on the up and coming. But I think this city has so much opportunities to be known and to do things and to fill the need where the need's at. I see it's so in a very, could be in a good way or in a bad way, right? It's easy to get known here in this city.
Pretty quickly, yeah.
And I think if you're standing up for something that's bigger than yourself, I think that can really, really help you and propel you to be noticed in the city and to be recognized, to provide more value to people and to give back, right? Whatever outreach initiative that is. I think Sacramento, a lot of people say, it's a small town. It feels like a small town in a big city, and and so in many ways like that, I think I see that popping off so much more. There's already amazing startup groups here in Sacramento. They're doing extraordinary different things as well. But I would just encourage more and more people to contribute back to the city, because at the end of the day, man, like everyone has an opportunity to make an impact, and that's something that I'd love to kind of see and be around more too.
Exactly. Yeah. I love that, bro, because that's what we're trying to do with this podcast is give entrepreneurs a platform to express what their business is, give them a platform to show hey, this is how you can build up. Especially Sacramento, this community, it needs entrepreneurs, it needs people to build. Create. So like I said, man, this is really, really awesome that you were able to jump on. This is only our second episode. So
that's great.
We're trying to keep this thing going and getting more and more, entrepreneurs on this channel.
But it's pretty amazing when I think about my own story, and when I think about where I envision, and the team envisions Trust God Bro to be, we envision we have a belief that, God's not a God of mediocrity, right? And if we believe he chose us to build this faith-based business, we're going to do that to the best of our ability. And we're going to make this thing global. I see a huge warehouse headquarters where we're not only fulfilling, our apparel and having world-class, apparel to offer, but we also have a music studio for artists in the industry, coming to record their songs. I see, ministry opportunities. I see so many people being impacted through Trust God Bro. And the fact that I think about it all starting in Sacramento, it makes me so excited, because then I know it's, we can kind of give back in practical ways when we get there to the city. And so I'm proud of the city. We're originally both from San Diego,
we're transplants.
But I would say, I've really helped, I wouldn't say help, but I've really built a solid support system here.
Right.
So in many ways, Sacramento does feel like home. And so that's an aspect of where we are doing right now on behalf of the company, is wanting to make, the city proud. So
absolutely, man. I think you are, man. Thanks again for jumping on, bro. So
absolutely.
Any shameless plugs for our audience?
Shameless plug. Go to shoptrustgodbro.com if you want your own apparel. We got all this new stuff coming out, this month for Christmas, and then also just for next year in 2024. Follow us on Instagram. If you're not already, what are you doing? Go on Instagram, type in Trust God Bro, follow us. There's so many different things in store. We're collaborating with world-renowned music groups like Maverick City Music. There's so many different things in the works, and so don't miss out. Follow us, and so that's my shameless plug there. So
awesome, man. Awesome, guys. So that is the end of this episode. If you like this content, please follow and subscribe. Until next time, thank you.